Have you ever noticed how some people seem to carry an unshakable sense of who they are, completely immune to the noise around them? In Jujutsu Kaisen, Nobara Kugisaki stands as one of anime's most psychologically intact characters, not because she's the strongest or the most talented, but because she possesses something far rarer, a genuinely integrated sense of self. While countless characters around her wrestle with identity crises, chase validation, or collapse when tested, Nobara moves through the world with crystalline clarity about her values, her worth, and her place. What makes her especially compelling from a psychological standpoint isn't just confidence. It's that her self-assurance doesn't stem from talent, doesn't require constant reinforcement, and doesn't waver under scrutiny. She embodies what researchers describe as authentic self-worth, a psychological state so resilient that most people never achieve it despite decades of effort. Examining how she developed this foundation and how it functions under pressure reveals insights about human psychology that extend far beyond fiction into the architecture of mental health itself. From the moment Nobara enters the narrative, she violates every expectation we hold for young female characters in shonen storytelling. She arrives in Tokyo already possessing what Erik Erikson termed identity achievement, the resolution of adolescence's central psychological crisis. Most individuals navigating their late teens and early 20s exist in what Erikson called identity diffusion or moratorium, actively testing different selves, seeking peer approval, cycling through beliefs and values. This developmental stage typically involves profound uncertainty about who you are and what you stand for. Nobara has already completed this process. She knows exactly why she's in Tokyo, to prove that someone from the countryside can thrive in the city's spotlight. She maintains clear aesthetic standards. She refuses to shrink herself for comfort or acceptance. She's established firm boundaries in every relationship. This level of psychological coherence at her age represents an anomaly worth examining closely, because identity clarity this early suggests developmental factors most people never experience. Understanding Nobara's psychology requires exploring Julian Rotter's concept of locus of control, developed in the mid-20th century to explain how people perceive causality in their lives. Those with an internal locus of control believe their actions shape outcomes. Those with an external locus attribute results to luck, circumstance, or other people's choices. Nobara demonstrates an exceptionally robust internal locus. She doesn't wait for rescue during combat. She doesn't hope curses will simply be weaker than expected. She analyzes, strategizes, and acts with complete faith that her decisions will determine the outcome. Watch her approach any battle. She identifies vulnerabilities, constructs plans around her strengths, and executes without hesitation. Research consistently links internal locus of control to lower anxiety, better stress management, and more stable self-esteem. When you believe you influence what happens to you, your sense of worth stops depending on circumstances beyond your control. Nobara's psychological resilience flows directly from this foundational belief in her own agency. Carl Jung's analytical psychology offers another lens for understanding what makes Nobara unusual. Jung distinguished between the persona, our social mask, and the shadow, the repressed parts we refuse to acknowledge. Most people maintain significant distance between these aspects, presenting carefully curated versions of themselves while hiding traits deemed unacceptable. Nobara's persona and authentic self nearly overlap completely. She doesn't perform conventional femininity to ease social friction. She doesn't conceal her competitive drive or her vanity. When she declares herself both beautiful and powerful, she's integrating qualities society insists contradict each other. Jung believed psychological wholeness required what he called the union of opposites, refusing to fragment yourself into acceptable and unacceptable pieces. Nobara achieves this naturally. She's simultaneously compassionate and merciless, traditionally feminine and aggressively independent, collaborative and fiercely self-directed. This complexity without internal contradiction suggests a psyche that never learned it needed to split itself for approval. Her backstory reveals the developmental turning points that shaped this remarkable self-worth. If you haven't finished Season 1, brief spoiler ahead, Skip forward 30 seconds. Nobara's childhood friend Saori faced ostracism from their rural community simply for being different, for coming from Tokyo. Young Nobara witnessed how conformity pressure and group psychology could destroy someone who didn't fit prescribed molds. Developmental psychologists call these crystallizing moments, experiences that fundamentally reorganize your worldview and values. Instead of internalizing that she should conform to avoid similar treatment, Nobara learned something else entirely: that collective consensus can be profoundly wrong, that authenticity matters more than belonging, and that genuine connection requires accepting people wholly rather than demanding they conform. This explains her later philosophy about wanting friends who would mourn her death and enough money to avoid burdening them. She's resolved what Abraham Maslow identified as the tension between belonging needs and self-actualization by deciding that real relationships never require self-abandonment. Object relations theory, pioneered by analysts like Melanie Klein and Donald Winnicott, examines how early relationships create internal working models of self and others. Nobara's stable self-worth suggests she experienced what Winnicott called good enough caregiving, consistent support paired with space to develop authenticity. She internalized what attachment theorists call a secure base, a reliable internal conviction that she's fundamentally acceptable as she is. This differs radically from narcissistic confidence, which demands constant external validation and reacts with rage or collapse when validation is withheld. When Nobara encounters criticism or setbacks, she doesn't disintegrate or respond defensively. She evaluates whether the feedback has merit, adjusts if warranted, or dismisses it if irrelevant. This capacity for non-defensive self-assessment marks genuine self-worth, rather than fragile ego requiring protection. Feminist psychology, particularly Carol Gilligan's work on relational autonomy, provides crucial context for understanding Nobara's integration of independence and connection. Traditional psychological frameworks, especially early psychoanalytic theory, position separation and independence as developmental pinnacles while treating connection and interdependence as immature or stereotypically feminine. Feminist theorists challenged this, arguing that mature development includes both autonomy and relationship, both individuation and genuine connection. Nobara embodies this integration perfectly. She's intensely independent, refusing to define herself through relationships with men, yet she's also deeply loyal, collaborative in combat, and values authentic bonds. Fighting alongside Yuji and Megumi, she doesn't compete for dominance or attempt to prove superiority. She recognizes their strengths, coordinates effectively, and maintains her distinct identity within team structures. Psychologists call this differentiation, maintaining clear selfhood while remaining emotionally connected to others. From a clinical perspective, examining Nobara's personality structure illuminates what constitutes psychological health and resilience. Using the 5-factor model, she likely scores high on extroversion given her outgoing energy, high on conscientiousness based on disciplined goal pursuit, moderate to high on openness considering her embrace of Tokyo's novelty, lower on agreeableness because authenticity trumps harmony in her hierarchy, and relatively low on neuroticism given her emotional stability under stress. This profile aligns with what researchers call psychological hardiness, viewing challenges as opportunities rather than threats, maintaining commitment to meaningful goals, and believing in your capacity to influence outcomes. Every major battle demonstrates these characteristics. She doesn't freeze or become overwhelmed by danger. She engages fully, strategizes actively, maintains focus on objectives. Carl Rogers' concept of unconditional positive regard further illuminates Nobara's psychology. Rogers argued that mental health requires experiencing unconditional positive regard, being valued for who you are rather than what you achieve or how you perform. Nobara extends this unconditional acceptance to herself. She doesn't question her fundamental worth when facing stronger opponents or encountering setbacks. Her self-worth isn't conditional on winning or being the best. It's grounded in something deeper, an intrinsic sense of value simply from being authentically herself. This is extraordinarily rare and represents what Rogers considered the bedrock of psychological health. Most people internalize conditions of worth during childhood, believing they're valuable only if they're successful, attractive, compliant, or whatever their environment implicitly demanded. Nobara seems to have escaped this trap entirely. Nobara's psychology becomes even more compelling when contrasted with compensatory confidence, what Alfred Adler called the inferiority-superiority complex dynamic. Adler proposed that feelings of inferiority drive people to compensate through achievement or by developing a superiority complex, exaggerated self-importance masking deep insecurity. Many anime characters display confidence that crumbles under pressure, revealing the fragility beneath. They need constant proof of superiority, react with disproportionate anger to challenges, or lose confidence when encountering stronger opponents. Nobara shows none of these patterns. Her confidence remains consistent across contexts. She doesn't diminish others to elevate herself, acknowledges others' strengths without feeling threatened, and maintains psychological equilibrium, whether winning or losing. This stability suggests her self-worth isn't compensatory, but genuinely integrated into her psychological foundation. How did Nobara develop such robust mental health, despite originating from a small rural community emphasizing conformity? Resilience research, particularly Emmy Werner's longitudinal studies of at-risk children, has identified protective factors enabling some individuals to thrive despite adverse circumstances. One critical factor, having at least one person who believes in you unconditionally. For Nobara, this might have been her grandmother or another caregiver who supported authentic self-expression. Another protective factor is what researchers term an internal locus of evaluation. Judging yourself by your own standards rather than others' opinions, Nobara clearly developed this early, evidenced by befriending the ostracized Saori despite community disapproval. A third factor involves finding meaning beyond immediate circumstances, which Nobara achieved through her determination to succeed in Tokyo. These protective factors likely interacted with innate temperament, because research indicates constitutional differences in resilience, creating the robust foundation we observe. What does Nobara's psychology teach us about real human behavior and mental health? First, authentic confidence differs profoundly from performative confidence, saturating social media and competitive environments. Authentic confidence is quiet. It doesn't require constant assertion, remains stable regardless of external validation, and allows vulnerability without threatening core selfhood. Second, healthy self-worth emerges from internal sources rather than external achievement. Nobara's confidence isn't primarily about being the strongest sorcerer or winning every battle. It's rooted in knowing herself and accepting that person completely. Third, maintaining boundaries and authenticity in relationships actually strengthens connections rather than weakening them. Nobara's willingness to present herself genuinely, including socially unpalatable traits like vanity and competitiveness, enables more authentic relationships than performing a more acceptable persona. Fourth, identity clarity provides enormous psychological advantages. When you know who you are and what you value, decision-making simplifies, anxiety decreases, and resilience increases because you're not constantly contorting yourself to meet others' expectations. The psychological resonance Nobara creates, particularly among young women, reflects hunger for representations of healthy female confidence that doesn't require self-diminishment, competition with other women, or deriving worth primarily from appearance or male relationships. From a social psychology perspective, media representations shape beliefs about what's normal, possible, and desirable. When viewers watch Nobara maintain boundaries, refuse to apologize for ambition, integrate femininity with strength, and value herself independently, it provides what psychologists call a model of possibility. It demonstrates these traits can coexist, that self-worth doesn't demand self-sacrifice, and that authenticity can be strength rather than vulnerability. This matters especially given research showing girls and young women often experience declining self-esteem during adolescence while navigating conflicting messages about femininity, achievement, and social acceptance. Understanding Nobara's psychological profile also clarifies crucial distinctions between personality traits and psychological disorders, a critical point in clinical practice. Nobara exhibits high confidence, low agreeableness, and strong independence, but these traits exist within a healthy psychological framework. She maintains meaningful relationships, adapts effectively to circumstances, experiences appropriate emotional responses, and functions well across life domains. This distinguishes her personality from disorders like narcissistic personality disorder, which might superficially resemble confidence but actually involves fragile self-esteem, empathy deficits, exploitative relationships, and significant functional impairment. Similarly, her low agreeableness doesn't constitute antisocial personality disorder because she possesses an intact moral framework, capacity for genuine attachment, and ability to cooperate when necessary. This distinction matters because pathologizing normal personality variation, particularly traits like confidence and low agreeableness in women that challenge gender norms, has been a persistent problem in clinical psychology. What ultimately stands out most about Nobara Kugisaki is that she represents an aspirational psychological state that research confirms is achievable but requires specific developmental conditions and conscious cultivation. Her authentic self-worth, internal locus of control, integrated identity, and capacity for both autonomy and connection constitute what positive psychology researchers call flourishing. She's not flawless or without struggles, but her psychological foundation allows her to face challenges without fragmenting. For those seeking to develop similar resilience, Nobara's example suggests several pathways. Cultivate internal rather than external sources of worth, maintain boundaries protecting your authentic self, integrate rather than reject parts of yourself that seem contradictory, develop clear values and let them guide decisions, and build relationships based on genuine acceptance rather than performance. These aren't simple tasks, and they often require therapeutic support to overcome internalized beliefs blocking self-acceptance, but they represent the most reliable path towards sustainable psychological health and genuine resilience. If this psychological analysis resonated with you, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep explorations of anime characters through a psychological lens. Drop a comment telling me which character's psychology you'd like examined next, and let me know whether Nobara's approach to confidence has shifted how you think about self-worth. Understanding fictional characters psychologically not only deepens our appreciation of storytelling, but also illuminates our own minds and possibilities for growth. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.